Hey there, welcome back to the Life with Old Dogs podcast. This is our last episode of season 6. And during this season, we have been talking about saying goodbye, when it's time to say goodbye to your fur friend, how to tell when it's time, the markers that we use to help indicate when it's time for the residents here at Woody's place. I talked about what it's like to actually go through the process of euthanasia and what you can expect. And in this episode, I'm going to be talking about the aftermath. So this is, you've already done the markers. You've already said goodbye to your fur friend. And now what? Now what happens? Grief and bereavement is typically what happens. That's typically the process from the moment that you say goodbye. Now, some people could already be experiencing grief and bereavement through anticipatory grief, like they knew. Like, for instance, Brandy. I've used her as an example quite a bit throughout this season. I know her time is coming very soon. In fact, at the time of this recording, I thought I was going to have to make an appointment for her in the next day or so because she really had like a couple of bad days there. She has seemed to rebound a little bit, but it's not too far off. So I am experiencing anticipatory grief. I know it's coming. So grief. This is what we're talking about in this episode, and there are like, it's like a natural progression. There are stages to grief when you say goodbye to your fur friend, and this could be a dog or a cat or a hamster or a horse or a person for that matter, but a loved one, someone or something that you shared time with, and a very, very close bond with, and a strong connection. Just need to, yeah. Just need to add a note here. The cats are back in the Florida room where I'm recording, and yeah, they may be making an appearance. So this is baby Maximus. He is the baby of the bunch. What is he? He's about 4 months old now, and he's ruling the roost. So I may have to stop to kick him out because he's right here, like in the cords and everything. Okay, I just had to pause for a minute and kick him off the desk. All right, so stages of grief. The first stage of grief it's typically shock and denial, and both of which are a defense mechanism. So even if you had anticipatory grief and you knew this was happening, you knew this was coming, the moment was there, you're going through the process, you held your dog as he or she took her very last breath, all of a sudden something switches in your head, like you were prepared as best you could be, but now all of a sudden you're shocked. Now this is it. It's over. It's final. There's no coming back from death. So denial and shock. And this could be even more pronounced if you experienced like a traumatic death, one that you didn't know was coming. You know, you had your dog that got hit by a car, or your dog bloated, and now you're immediately having to say goodbye. Then the denial and shock is even more pronounced. And it is an absolute necessary mechanism. Defense is. It is protecting you from those incredibly intense and raw feelings of pain and sadness. So my word of advice is you need to feel that. You need to feel that to help you progress. And if you put on your serious face, like, oh, I'm not going to cry, I'm not going to get upset over this, there's people around, it's just a dog, I'm not going to do that, and you don't allow yourself to feel that sense of denial and shock, it's not good. It'll eat you up like a cancer. Okay. It's something that none of us want to do, but it is a necessity to move forward in the healing process. And some people experience it more than others. I'm not saying, you have to get down on your hands and knees and ugly cry as you slobber all over your, deceased dog who was just euthanized. I'm not saying you have to do that, but if that's what you need to do, that's fine. I've been there. I've been there lots of times. I am that ugly crier, and I'm not saying that I'm like proud of it, but that is the way I begin my process of grief and working my way through that. And I think that is allowing myself to express my grief has what's helped me through the journey of Woody's Place. Like that, I just keep going back for more older dogs that I know I'm not going to have a lot of time with, knowing, that the end is in sight a whole lot sooner than it would be if I were to rescue, 1, 2, 3, even 4-year-old dogs. But that's my choice. And I'm good with it, but I allow myself that, but I still have denial and I still have shock. And one of the ways that the denial, it surfaces for me is, once I get back to the sanctuary, of course, it's like I just get thrown right back into the mix right away. I mean, there's other residents here. There's the sanctuary cats here. I've got my farm animals outside. It's never ending, and they still need care too. And sometimes I resent that, and other times I need that to just help me move on. And I process my grief as I'm moving on. Like, I never just throw myself down in a chair and the woe is me and all that stuff. I don't ever do that. I'm constantly in motion. I'm constantly doing stuff. I mean, in addition to Woody's Place, we do have a homestead here. So I'm constantly immersed in homestead or sanctuary, Life with Old Dogs activities. But my brain is always going and I'm always processing. So, let's just say denial. One way that it may come to the surface for me is I may be out with the chickens and goats, and I may be, I may be taking care of them first thing in the morning. And my process is I always open one of the fences to the dog yards into the field where the goats and chickens are kept. Okay, it's a really big field, but they're locked up at this point. They're in their buildings and they're locked up, and I get their water ready and I get all their feed ready for the day, and I put it in all their little different places where they eat. I get hay out for the goats and stuff like that. And in the meantime, the dogs are just out there pretty much trying to eat chicken poop and stuff like that that's laying on the ground, but they're loving it and they're having a great time. So if I have to say goodbye, like Sheriff, I just said goodbye to Sheriff recently, and several times now that we've been out there, I'm counting dogs as I'm looking around. It's all fenced in, but I'm still counting dogs. And then when it's time to come back in to the dog yard, so I can let the chickens and goats out, and I'm counting who's here. There's been several times I've been like, "Where's Sheriff?" Oh, that's right. He's not with us anymore. That's a defense mechanism. That's still me trying to work through the fact that he is not with us anymore. And I still have not completely processed the fact that we had to say goodbye to him. But anyway, it's a necessity. I keep screwing that up. It's a necessity, and it's completely normal. Okay. Denial, first step, or first stage, I should say. Okay. The next stage, it's not something that everyone experiences. And it's okay if you don't. Like, none of this is written in stone. Some people say there's only 5 stages to grief. Other people say there's 7 stages to grief. I think there's about 6. I'm kind of middle of the road there. It's typically where I live, middle of the road. But it doesn't mean that every stage pertains to you or me. Okay. Grief is a very individual experience, and it's okay. It's okay if you're kind of in one stage longer than the other, or you're in one stage and flip over the other and, move on to the stage after that. It's okay. So this next stage, the second stage, is typically anger and maybe even guilt. And again, this may not pertain to you. So, okay. When it's time to say goodbye to Brandy, I know I won't be visiting the anger stage of grief. There's nothing to be angry about. She has lived a great life. She's been here at the sanctuary for 4 years. I don't know what her life was like before she got here, but I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, she has been here since January 2018. She came in about 10 years old. I know that little girl has had the best life that she could possibly have ever had since she has been in our care. And I'm very proud of that. And I have no anger or guilt when it is time to say goodbye. Okay, it is what it is. I mean, that's an expression I really hate, but it's true. It is what it is. We all have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Okay, and she has had a great middle. I don't know about her beginning, but she had a great middle. And when her end comes, that's it. That's it. That's all. There's no fencing in time, right? When it's our time, and that's it. And I'm not gonna feel anger. I'm not gonna visit that stage of grief, the second stage, anger or guilt. But for some people, um, they may. Okay, so I experienced anger with Sheriff's passing. I was angry because I did not experience guilt, but I was angry because he came to us in bad shape. He was just in bad shape. He apparently was an outside dog. Okay, I can always tell when they don't have hair on their back ends, when their elbows are all blown out, when their coat's just filthy and smelly and dirty and stuff like that, when they don't know really what it's like to live inside. We have a dog door and they constantly just want to lay out in the backyard. I can tell that's a dog who is more comfortable being outside because they're not familiar with being inside. So I was angry at whoever had him. So he was about 10 years old. We didn't have him very long. He came here like the second week in November, and he was gone 2 months later. So I was angry at whoever had him. Clearly had no value, thought his life had no value or very, very little value, and that angers me. Nobody makes somebody have a dog or get a dog. Nobody makes that happen. It's a choice. And basically, people make that choice and then they realize they don't want the commitment. So the dog, some dogs just become a lawn ornament outside and they have no life. And I think that was Sheriff. And that really angers me. Because they don't have a say, and it's not fair. It's not fair at all, and it's cruel. It's a cruel thing to do, and it's unnecessary. It doesn't have to happen, but it does. So I was angry at whoever had him before. I even had a little guilt because I kept thinking, was there something else I could do? But I know there wasn't, but I still went through that process of those stages of in grief, anger and guilt. My veterinary team at Carbondale, they're true warriors. They say I am, but they are really. They help me through that. When I'm a little too close to the situation that I'm having trouble making a determination of if it's time to say goodbye or not, I know they have my back. I know they do, and I know I can trust them. And before I even said goodbye to Sheriff, when I did say goodbye, I had Sheriff up there a week before, and I know what Dr. Tom was telling me without saying the words. He was hinting around, but he didn't come right out and say it. But I knew the message that he was saying, like, you did everything you can. This poor boy is suffering. You really should say goodbye. But I kind of let it go for a little bit longer. I got different medication for him, thinking that would help. I bought him really nice braces for his wrists, hoping that would help. But it didn't. It didn't. So I had a little bit of guilt there, and anger. So that's the second stage. And again, if you experience it, it's totally normal. If you don't, that's okay too. The third stage of guilt is bargaining. Now, these first three stages, I said, some people believe there's five, some people believe there's six, some people believe there's seven. These first three, okay, denial, shock, anger, guilt, and bargaining, they're pretty solidified. The rest of it gets kind of like, some people think there are more and some people think there are less. But bargaining is, it typically comes, it can come with the anger and guilt, but it typically comes a little bit after, where, the anger starts kind of subsiding a little bit. You become a little bit more emotional, vulnerable for sure. And then you start bargaining, like, if I could have just had one more day, maybe we could have done this. If I just had a little more money, maybe I could have gotten him this treatment and it would have bought more time. And so you can see how bargaining could be intertwined with anger and guilt. And again, this is something you may feel and you may not feel, and either way, it's fine. Again, because I just need to clarify, grief is a very individual experience, and there's no right or wrong. But basically, the bargaining is a whole lot of what ifs, and it can be a slippery slope. And as far as the process of grief, that is one stage I do not allow myself to linger. Hardly ever. That is one that I will kind of put up a wall, because nothing positive is coming from that. I think a lot of more harm actually comes from the bargaining stage than anything good. If again, you feel like you must go down that way, I would definitely put a limit on it, because I don't really think anything good comes from what if, when you're in the situation where you had to say goodbye to your fur friend. Okay. After bargaining is depression. Depression really sets in for almost anyone I know. There have been a couple of folks, there have literally been two folks that I know over the years that just didn't experience any of this. They were just like, see ya, and I don't want to judge, but, I just don't know how you take care of a dog for over a decade, and that's how you are with their final, goodbye and the aftermath and all. That would never be me, but I understand that that's, how some people react, but it just seems really cold and indifferent to me. But depression is next. Depression, loneliness. So, and again, this can be really just sad. It really is. But remember, these are all steps to healing, and they're very, very necessary. Okay. So depression, what can it look like? Well, a lot of us suffer from depression. I suffer from seasonal affect disorder here in the Poconos, and a lot of times I just don't want to talk to anybody. I'll eat like a lot of carbs. I don't really have like the desire to do much. I get brain fog, just want to hibernate, like I said, eat carbs and drink coffee. It's just bad. It just gets ugly. And, it's hard to pull myself out of that sometimes, not take a shower for days or whatever. And, there are folks who are like, well, why can't you just pull yourself out of that? Well, because you can. That's why. And if you've never experienced it, you have no idea what you're talking about. And you really shouldn't ever just tell someone, why can't you just pull yourself out of it? Depression is a very serious matter. There's a lot of depression in this country, but we're talking about depression in the grief process. So stage number 4 is depression. Reality has set in. Okay. Your fur friend is gone. For me, it happens typically within, I'm going to say like the first 3 days that I realize, that dog is gone. And I really, really love that dog. Like, I'm going to struggle when Brandy's gone. I really am, because she's been here for so long and I truly, truly love her. She's just a fantastic little girl. She has been from day one, and a complete and utter joy. And I know I'm going to be depressed when she passes, because I'm going to miss that bond that I have with her. I'm going to miss her lovely energy that she brings to every room that she walks in. We all are. And especially Maximus and Atticus, that little kitty that was just here. He sleeps with her every night. He loves her. and Atticus too. From the day he came to the sanctuary, she came January 2018. He came December 2018, and they've been like this, just like peas and carrots. So it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard because she's been such a presence and such a ray of sunshine. So I can see myself like not wanting to talk, not really wanting to post on social media. I mean, these are things that I like to do, but I can see myself, withdrawing and just processing in my mind until, I get to the other side of that stage. And loneliness. I am going to feel lonely without her because she sleeps with me. Brandy sleeps with me every night. She is like literally right next to my bed. She's not in my bed. She's on her bed right next to the bed. And if I put my hand outside of my bed, I'm literally touching her. So she's always with me, basically. And during that time, there's typically a lot of reflection that goes on. For me, it's like what happened up to the time that I had to say goodbye. But eventually that leads to fun memories and fond memories that I have of the deceased dog. So grief also can be a slippery slope. If you find yourself in that stage for too long, I would definitely recommend reaching out for some assistance, whether it's professional or a friend or a clergy member, someone in a rescue group who can understand what it is that you are experiencing. I would definitely recommend not lingering too much in that stage, because just like the bargaining, if you're there in that depression stage for too long, nothing good is coming from it. So just remember that, okay? Because it can be hard, especially if you're someone prone to depression already. Okay, but it's also important to remember that depression or that sadness that you're feeling is imperative to move forward into the healing process. All right. It's like a cut sort of on your hand. I mean, you get a cut on your hand, it hurts, it feels miserable. You don't want it. You're mad that it's there. You're feeling stupid that it even happened if it's something you did yourself. But then it goes through a healing process, right? And, and it starts to develop a scab, which might not feel great, especially if you're a picker and you're picking at it or something. But then eventually, if you let it alone and let it heal slowly on its own, it will heal. And then all of a sudden you won't even know it's there anymore. So that leads me to stage number 5, and it is the adjustment stage. Now, this is a stage that's not always in everybody, every professional's stages of grief, but it is in quite a few, and it is one that I believe in, because the last one is acceptance. And you don't just go, I don't think you just go from depression to accepting it. I mean, it's not like you just wake up one day and you're like, yeah, sheriff's gone. Oh, well, that's it. I'm going to move on. I mean, maybe some people do, but I'm going to say most people don't, especially if it's a dog or a cat, again, a horse, a guinea pig, whatever, that you've had for years. It doesn't typically work out that way. So stage number 5 for me is acceptance. And this is when you start adjustment. And this is when you start working to that new normal. Okay. So, an example would be, again, me out in the goat and chicken yard, and, when it's time to bring the dogs back into the dog yard, me knowing, okay, yeah, he's not here. I don't need to look for him anymore. I just have to worry about the 5 dogs here that are in my care. I just have to feed the 5 dogs here that are in my care because Sheriff's Bowl has now been put away and, he's not here. Or, well, this was Sheriff's bed. He laid on it all the time, but now Nona's laying on it because it's a nice big Barker dog bed with a nice heating pad on it. And that's where he always laid. He needed it for his elbows and all the arthritis in his body. He needed it, but now he's not here anymore. So there's no reason that, Nona can't lay on it. So it's those things. Okay. I only got to fill 5 bowls now instead of 6 dog bowls. And little by little, just like the elements etching away at a mountain. Little by little, a new norm begins to emerge. Okay. And that's stage number 6. And again, this is a stage that could take a little bit of time or it could take longer. And there's no right or wrong there. Okay. All right. Okay. The final stage of grief is finally just accepting. And I shouldn't say just because it can be a big deal. It is accepting that your fur friend has passed. He's gone. He's not coming back. And it's definitely not, acceptance is not a betrayal of the fact that your fur friend is gone. It's not like you're going to forget. That's not what it's about. It's just accepting. Okay, he is gone. He's not coming back. And then this is when you can start to say, but boy, did he have a great life while he was here. And remember when we did this, and remember when we did that, and remember when he was a puppy and this happened, and remember that trip to the vet where he totally freaked out and we all had to chase him down the hallway or whatever. And then you can actually start to smile and look upon your fur friend's life with fond, warm, and fuzzy memories. And that's where your fur friend's going to live, in your heart and in your memories. I mean, so you're always going to have your fur friend with you. Okay, you're always going to carry him with you. He's just not going to be here physically anymore. So that's acceptance. And acceptance is another stage that it could take a little while to get there for some people. And also there's waxing and waning that goes on between these stages. Like you could be making like some pretty good headway in the anger stage, and then all of a sudden slip back a little bit and have a bad day or have a bad couple of days, and then you start moving on again. It's the same with all of these stages. And again, it's okay. What's not okay is if you get stuck and you are, your fur friend is gone now, and let's just say you are 6 months down the road. Okay. Really? Yeah. Let's just say 6 months. We'll just use that for a good marker. 6 months down the road and you're still stuck in the anger phase. I would definitely recommend seeking help at that point. Okay. Because some people, again, could just get stuck and need help working through the process of grief. Okay, but these 6 steps, that's pretty much the general picture of grief and what you can expect after you say goodbye to your fur friend. All right, because some people don't know. Again, like you could be listening to this and be like, yeah, I know all this. I mean, I don't even know why I'm listening to this anymore. But some people may not know, or they may realize what's happening and not realize that, it's okay if I'm in this stage for, a week or so, and then I have a couple good days and then I slip back down again. It's okay. Or, well, I didn't have anger or guilt. That's not normal, right? Well, yeah, it is, especially if your pet had a great life. So that's it. That's all I have for this episode and for this season. But I do have something I want to add. We are now offering, I should say I am now offering pet grief support groups and individual sessions. And I'll make sure the information is in the show notes. Our first group is going to start March 15th. It's a Wednesday, and it'll be at 3 p.m. Eastern time. So what I'm bringing to the table is, first of all, I have an associate's degree in human services, drug and alcohol treatment, and I have a bachelor's degree in human development and family studies. In my prior life, I was a substance abuse counselor. I worked with adjudicated teens on a dual diagnosis unit. So they had substance abuse issues, they had legal problems, and then they had mental health problems in addition to that. And basically, one big thing that I realized through all this is it is a family problem. It's not an individual problem. It is a family problem. And typically, when we would receive a juvenile who was adjudicated to treatment, the families would come, or they wouldn't, on visitation day, and it was abundantly clear why this youngster had problems. So it was so I ran group sessions and individual sessions throughout my career as a substance abuse counselor. Didn't really love that too much, like not at all. So basically, I turned to dogs, but I still have that experience. Okay, I still have that experience, and I still have this education. And I decided, because people reach out to me all the time about their pet passing and want to tell me their stories and stuff like that. So I recognize that there is a need for this. So I am going to be offering the group sessions. Okay. I believe they're an hour long, once a week, and you can sign up for, I think it's either 2 sessions or 3 sessions. And then there is an individual session too, if groups are not your thing. The group session is going to be done virtually online. Okay. And you can have your camera on or you can have your camera off or whatever. You can share if you want, or I'm sorry, I have something in my eye here, probably cat hair. Or you can just listen, whatever it is that you want to do. Nobody's going to put you under a microscope. And the individual session will either be virtual. Again, you can have your camera on, you can have your camera off, or just a regular phone call. All right. So I'll be sure to include that in the show notes. If you're struggling with the grief process, you said goodbye to your fur friend. Okay. This is what it's about: pet grief support. Okay. This isn't about humans. It's humans. Like if a human passes away, this is pet grief support. All right. And I hope to be able to help. That's what I'm looking to do here. I'm hoping to be able to connect and help you through this grief process. All right. I'm glad. I'm glad this season's behind us. This was another tough one for me. When you're dealing with older pets, death is like right over there. You know, and it's something that needs to be discussed instead of just brushed under the rug and then dealt with as soon as it comes up. I just don't think that's the way it should be done. It's something we should all get more comfortable about discussing. And then it'll be easier to handle when it does come up. Okay. And the other thing is, I think everyone should realize that they're not alone. Unless it's something you want to do by yourself. Some people just, I'm typically someone who likes to just deal with things on my own instead of joining a group or whatever. But there are some people, I would be someone who would sign up for individual. But there are some people who there are safety in numbers, and they glean more information or, draw out more support from listening and interacting with a group of people. So that's why I decided to offer both. Okay. So that is it, folks. Next season, we're switching gears because I'm also a certified, canine nutrition coach. I'm RACE certified. So RACE is the courses that I took to become certified are the exact courses your veterinarian takes. They have to be RACE approved courses, and that's exactly what I took. So we're going to start switching gears, and we're going to start talking about nutrition for our older German Shepherds or older dogs. At this point, I'm just going to be talking about older dogs because I want that nutrition to be able to transcend the bounds of just older German Shepherds. I want it to be for all older dogs because I want to help as many older dog pet owners as possible. So I am super excited about that. And it won't be depressing. All right, folks. Until next time, give your pup a kiss for me.